Next, we will be discussing about these parameters or characteristics which we have discussed in ideal and practical characteristics in detail. Few characteristics we have to discuss in detail. So those characteristics we'll discuss. So before that, we need to know what is a differential gain. Differential gain. So which is represented as AD. So differential gain is it is the gain of the differential op amp. So as we know that the output voltage or the output of an op amp is given as the product of gain and input. So product of gain and input signal. This is the standard formula for every op amp. You'll be getting the output in this format only. So gain will be multiplied with the input. So here this gain is our AD differential gain, and input is, since it is differential, it is going to take the difference of the two inputs. So V naught is equal to AD into V2 minus V1. So this AD into V2 minus V1 can be represented as VD, which is going to tell difference voltage. In short, we can take it as VD. So AD can be given as V naught by VD. This is, if you just think in general way also, output by input gain, that will be giving the gain. The same way we are writing it, output voltage by input voltage. Input voltage is the difference between the two inputs which is given. So that is VD. Usually the gain will be represented in terms of decibels. So when we represent this in terms of decibels, it will be 20 log of AD. So this is the formula to represent the gain in decibel. The same way, next we are having common mode gain. Yesterday, while discussing the common mode rejection ratio, I was telling about the common mode signals, which are the unwanted signals which are getting added up to both the inputs. So such type of, because of such type of op amp, because of such type of input signals, which is unwanted signals, there is some gain which is getting added up. Actually, this AC is also unwanted gain only. We require just AD, but because of that common mode signal, some extra gain is getting added up, and that gain is not that gain is with respect to the common mode signals. So that we need to find common mode gain. So common mode gain. So here when we apply two input voltages, even though it is equal, in if it is an ideal case, then output will be 0. But uh, practically speaking, it is not only depending upon the input voltages, that is difference of the two input voltages, but also it depends upon the average of the two inputs, which is known as the common mode. That is the extra signal which is getting added up. So the output is also going to depend upon this common mode, because this is the extra gain and extra voltage that is getting added up. So VC, this is common mode voltage, is given as the ratio of V1 plus V2 by 2. So whatever the voltage which is applied along with V1, and whatever the extra voltage that is applied along with V2, that is taken and divided by 2. The average of this two will gives you the common mode signal, common mode voltage. Then again, writing that in terms of our standard equation in this form, output voltage is equal to common mode gain into common mode voltage. So overall, for an op amp, differential op amp, we get V naught is equal to output voltage, total output voltage will be equal to VD into AD plus VC into AC. You can observe here in the first case, when we are discussing about differential gain, we just We just studied that output voltage is the product of differential gain and differential voltage. But after coming to know about the common mode signals, the output voltage is not only VD into AD, it is plus VC into AC. So based on this, CMRR, whatever we are going to discuss, common mode rejection ratio. So this common mode rejection ratio parameter is going to tell that how effectively this extra signal which is unwanted is going to be removed or is going to be ignored. Ideally speaking, we tell that uh, op amp is having infinite CMRR. Infinite CMRR means it will not have common mode voltage only. But practically speaking, it will have some common mode voltage. So we need to just look into how much it can try to reduce, how much the op amp can try to reduce. So these are all the undesired signals or unwanted signals which are getting added up to the differential amplifier. So the ability of the differential amplifier to reject this kind of common mode voltage signals is known as common mode rejection ratio. So common mode rejection ratio is given by the ratio of differential gain by common mode gain. So if you want to write it in terms of decibel, CMRR in dB is equal to 20 log of AD by AC. So this is the formula which we are going to use to find the common mode rejection ratio. Whatever we are discussing, no, these are all the things they can ask you. Explain the following. They'll ask you these things. Then you need to discuss by writing the equations. Next is sleeve rate. Sleeve rate is also one of the important characteristics which they'll be asking, and they define the following such kind of question. So sleeve rate is the maximum rate of change of output voltage with respect to time, or the change in the output voltage instantly with the change in the input voltage, that gives you the sleeve rate. So sleeve rate is going to tell how much fastly the device is going to respond to the change in the input. So this is given by volt per microseconds. So it is going to specified in volt per microseconds. So we don't have much things to discuss about sleeve rate. Then after that, next we are having is input offset voltage, VIOS in short. So when an op amp is grounded like this, both of them are grounded. So if you take a voltmeter to just measure what is the output, and let us assume that it is 0 here, and we have a arrow mark needle which is going to show the value. So here, since inputs, we are considering both the inputs and both the inputs are grounded, obviously the output should be 0. According to the formula, V naught is equal to AD into V2 minus V1, it should be 0. But in the voltmeter, you can observe that it is not showing 0, it is showing some voltage. This small amount of voltage which is occurring or which is present at the output is because of some non-zero input signal. Even though we see grounding means what we do usually, we connect it to the ground terminal of the power supply. So there is some leakage which is happening from the power supply. Because of that, even though we have grounded it, there is some amount of current which is flowing through the input. Because of that, there is some output voltage. So whenever both the input terminals of an op amp is grounded, the output should be zero. But practical op amp shows some amount of non-zero output voltage. The input voltage which is responsible for this non-zero output voltage when both the inputs terminals are grounded or equal is known as input offset voltage. Okay, the unwanted voltage which is present at the input side, because of which there is some small amount of voltage at the output even when V1 and V2 are grounded or V1 and V2 are equal, is known as input offset voltage. To nullify this input offset voltage, what they do is they'll come to know that which terminal is having that problem, or which terminal of the power supply is having that problem, and during that time, so they'll connect the other terminal to a power supply, and they'll first observe what is the voltage it is displaying. Suppose it is displaying some 2 volts. Okay, so it is displaying 2 volts. So they'll come to know that this 2 volt is coming from this one. So they'll add one positive signal, a positive supply here, such that this becomes 2 minus 2. So they'll set this to 2 volt, and when you are going to give that 2 volt here, then this needle deflects to 0. So that shows this is how we are going to do we usually this is the precision technique which we are going to follow to nullify the unwanted voltage. So extra battery will be added, and we are going to tune that voltage according to our requirement, such that this needle deflects to 0. See, now the op amp is tuned up. From now onwards, whatever the output you will be getting, that is purely based on the input whatever you are giving. So that unwanted voltage or leakage voltage will not appear at the output side, because we are cancelling it by adding one extra battery. So this is how the input offset voltage will be nullified. After this, the next one is the output offset voltage. Output offset voltage. See, the presence of small amount of output voltage, even when V1, V2 are equal or they are 0, because of the input offset voltage, or maybe due to the bias current. We'll discuss what is that bias current in the next part, is known as output offset voltage. I'll repeat it again. The presence of small amount of voltage at the output due to the input offset voltage during, even when V1 and V2 are equal or 0, is known as output offset voltage. After this, again the power supply rejection ratio, whatever we discussed. So even they'll ask this uh, parameter or the characteristics to define. So this can be defined easily by using the formula PSRR is equal to delta VIOS by delta VCC, keeping VEE constant. Same way, PSRR is equal to delta VIOS by delta VEE by keeping VCC constant. So here it is a ratio of it is a ratio of change in the delta indicates change in the input offset voltage due to the change in the power supply producing it, keeping other power supply constant, because for an op amp you need two connections, right? VCC and VEE. There is only fluctuation in VCC. Let us assume that there is fluctuation in VCC. VEE is constant, but still, if any one of the power supply connection is going to fluctuate, that is going to have its effect over the input offset voltage. So there will be change in input offset voltage due to the change in the power supply which is producing it, keeping other power supply constant. See, one, it might be because of VCC or it might be because of VEE. So when VEE is fluctuating or it is varying, we consider VCC is constant. So this is PSRR. After that, the next one is input bias current. See, this input bias current, this kind of the characteristics, why we look in that much care, because again we'll take the example of the differential op amp. So minus plus, okay. So this is R1, R2, and current through this is IB1, and current through this is IB2. Inside this op amp, as we discussed in the last class, we are having two transistors. Yes, any doubt? Inside this op amp, since it is differential amplifier, it will be having two transistors. And as we know, these input terminals are the terminals which are going to connect to the base of each transistor. This will go and connect to one transistor, and this will go and connect to one transistor. Just a common sense question. In this op amp, we are considering two transistors, no? Those two transistors, will they be identical, or we should consider identical, or some different transistors we need to consider? This, hmm.
Identical, sir.
Identical,
Hmm.
sir.
Why identical? Why can't we use different? Yes, correct. Your answer is correct. Ideally speaking, both the transistor which is used should be same. They should be of same voltage drop, that is VBE should be same for both, and both should be NPN. Everything should be same. But practically, these two transistors, whatever we have used here, they might slightly differ. So there might be some small change. There, one might offer more resistance, one might offer slightly less resistance. Because of that, what happens? The current IB1 and IB2 will differ. So for the transistor 1, IB1 will be different, and transistor 2, IB2 will be different. If in this case, if you want to find out the input bias current, then we cannot tell IB is this much, because In order to tell bias current, we need to consider both the currents. And ideally speaking, both should be same. But practically, there might be some small change. There will be small change because of the doping concentration. So IB will be taken as IB1 plus IB2 divided by 2. We take the average of these two, and that will be the bias current, input bias current. Why we take the average? Because of some mismatch between the transistor of inverting and non-inverting terminals. The base currents will be slightly different. So in order to get the actual bias current, we will be taking the average of 2. That gives the input bias current. Next is input offset current, IIO. This is the input offset current. So input offset current is going to tell the difference between those two bias current. So difference, this is given as input offset is equal to IB1 minus IB2. So this is defined as difference in the magnitude of IB1 and IB2 is called input offset current. Here, to find bias current, we took average, but this parameter is going to tell how much difference they are having. So that's why we take through this formula, and we are going to tell how much difference they are going to have. The op amp is going to have with the two terminals. So whenever this offset comes, no, that is the unwanted thing that is happening in the op amp. So we will try. We have to try to. We should try to reduce that unwanted offset signals. That's what we did in voltage offset voltage, input offset voltage also. Here in input offset current also, we'll find out what is the difference between these two, and by properly tuning the input signal, so we can nullify that. So based on this input bias current and input offset current, some small simple examples, the problems they'll ask, so that we'll do it later. And after that, we are having parameter values of op amp, parameter values of op amp. So this parameter values of op amp is, so we have to list out all the ideal values and practical values, whatever we have discussed. The open loop gain, open loop gain, open loop voltage gain. In ideal case, it's infinity. In the practical case, it is 2 into 10 to the power of 5. So like that, for all the parameter, you need to list out the parameter value. This question is also important, and this table, the ideal and practical value table, you should remember, because these values, whatever we are having in this parameter values of op amp, will be used in solving the problems. Not only solving the problems of this chapter, the entire module 4 and module 5, for that this table is important. So they'll be not giving you the values of the parameter values of the practical op amp, but you need to know this. Okay, so let me write it once. Uh, in the beginning, the loop gain, input impedance, output impedance, in all those things we have discussed already in the yesterday's class. So just I will be writing whichever we have not discussed, the values whichever we have not discussed. So input offset voltage, ideally 0. Ideally, we tell that there is no such things going to happen, but practically the value is 5 millivolt. So 5 millivolt, some extra voltage will be added up. Next, input offset current. Input offset current. So this one, it is ideally it is 0. That means again offset means unwanted current. Ideally it is 0, but practically it will be 200 nano ampere. And input bias current, that is IB. Ideally, we tell it is 0. Can anyone tell me why we consider it as 0 ideally? Hmm?
So because the bias voltage is zero, sir, input bias voltage.
Okay. Then no, input bias is not 0. I'll give some input signal, but still ideally it is taken as 0. For this, there is answer in the parameter or characteristics only. It is very basic reason. Basic reason. If you are telling the base current is 0, there should be something.
Because ideally in a transistor, IV is 0.
What?
In a transistor,
Mm.
we usually assume that IB is very small,
Okay.
like in a BJT.
So that is assumption, but there is one reason here. Yesterday, while discussing the parameter, I have told it.
So because the input impedance is high, almost infinity.
Yes, very good. It's the right answer. Input impedance is infinity. When the input impedance is infinity, because the impedance offered here is infinity, then how can a current pass through it? So that's why we take ideally it is 0. But practically, it is not infinity, it is some mega ohms. Practically, the input impedance is some mega ohms. That's why we consider it's 500 nanoamperes of current. If even this is very less nanoamperes, it is in 10 to the power of minus 9 in that range. But there is some current flow. But ideally, it is 0 because the resistance is infinity. Okay. So that is how you need to analyze. There is some connection between one parameter with the other parameters. Coming to the bandwidth, as we have discussed, it is infinity here and it is 1 megahertz here. And coming to the common mode rejection ratio, we tell it is, and even it is represented by rho symbol, the common mode rejection ratio. It is infinity, but practically it is 90 dB. And one more thing, all these values are with respect to IC mu A741. and these values will change with respect to other ICs. Whatever the values we are discussing here, it is with respect to MUA741. It is not for all ICs. This will be common. It will not be a common values for all ICs. It is for MUA741. And why we are considered MUA741 only? Because MUA741 is the widely used IC in all the majority of our application. So that's why we have considered this. But in our upcoming chapters, in upcoming modules, we will be using other ICs also. So during that time, these values will change. So we'll let you know during that time. Coming to the PSRR, power supply rejection ratio, it is 0. That means there is no such changes, variations. But practically it is 150 microvolt per volt. So that much 150 microvolt will change at the input offset level for 1 volt change in VCC or VEE. After that, the drift current. So input drift current is ideally it is 0. So this drift current is because of the temperature. When the temperature changes, automatically there is some drift. So that is what we are considering. Ideally, we are considering it. There is no, irrespective of any temperature, there is no change in the current, or there is no change in flow of current. But practically, 0.1 nanoamperes of current will vary per degree Celsius. For per degree Celsius, 0.1 nanoamperes of current will change. There will be that much variation. So these are all the parameters. Along with this, open loop gain, input impedance, output impedance, you need to remember. And after this, saturable property, I think I've already told this several times. Saturable property of op-amp. See, saturable property of op-amp tells that whenever you consider an op-amp, you have plus VCC and minus VEE. So this is taken as V plus saturation. This is minus saturation. That is negative saturation. You might apply whatever input you want it, and it is irrespective of whether it is differential amplifier or inverting amplifier, non-inverting amplifier, whatever it might be. The output can swing only between plus VCC and minus VEE. This plus VCC and minus VEE, they are not only used to bias or to keep the operating point of the transistors which are present in this op-amp, but also they are going to fix the maximum range of the output. If you keep on increasing the input, but if plus VCC is 12 volt and minus VE is minus 12 volt, then maximum you can get 12 to minus 12, that is totally 24 volt. Beyond this, you cannot get the output. If you try to increase the input during that time, the output will not increase above this level, because this is the maximum level which is set in the plus VCC and minus VEE. This is actually, ideally speaking, it is 12 and minus 12. Practically speaking, even it cannot go till 24. It can go till only in the top, it can go to 11.3. In the bottom, it can go to minus 11.3. Can anyone tell me why is this?
So that is because of the semiconductor used, 0.7.
Yes, good. So each individual transistors are going to have VBE, base to emitter voltage drop. which is 0.7. So whenever you give the input, that input should be greater than 0.7, then only this transistor starts conducting. So until that 0.7, or it might be 0.3 also if you take a germanium transistor, until that this transistor is not going to conduct. So that 0.3 or 0.7 will be wasted. That's why in the output also that 0.3, 0.7 will be missing out. This is the practical case. And you cannot get exactly, if you fix 12 minus 12, you will never get 12 to minus 12, you cannot swing. You can only swing between, you can have maximum in the maximum plus 11.3 in positive and minus 11.3 in negative. So beyond this, you cannot. If you want to increase beyond this, then you need to again change plus VCC and minus VE. You need to change. So based on this plus VCC and minus VE, again the design will change. So this kind of property is known as saturable property of op amp. So once the output reaches the saturation level, it doesn't increase further even when input voltage is increased. If you try to increase the input voltage to increase the output, the output signal will gets clipped off. It starts getting clipped. So instead of getting a sine wave, you might get a square wave like this. If you have time, you can just check in Multisim or any other software. So where it is going to clip off, it will start clipping off the level because it will not allow above this range, that is 11.3 minus 11.3. You might increase whatever input you can increase, the output will not go beyond this. So finally it will become a square wave like this, because when you keep on increasing it, the extra signal will be getting clipped off. It is going to be removed off. So when the output is keep on increasing, that extra voltage above 11.3 will also be keep on removed. So that's why finally you will be getting this square wave. Okay. Whenever you do a C configuration amplifier, or whenever you connect an amplifier, and if you're getting a square wave where you are supposed to get a sine wave, then understand that you have given a very high input, or you have set your plus VCC or minus VE to very lower level. Okay, that will be the reason. That's why we were telling in C configuration, this open-ended experiment, I was telling just give 50 millivolt, don't give 1 volt. If you give 1 volt, no, our in that the transistor what we were using, the beta factor was 100 times of 1 volt. How much it will become? It cannot amplify that. If you amplify that also, plus VCC, whatever we have assumed is just 10 volts or 12 volts. So where is 1 volt, where is 100 volt, and where is 12 volt? That's why we will start getting a square wave. You think it is distortion, it is not distortion, it is a mistake what you have done in giving the input. So always to check an amplifier, you should give very low input, and so that you will get the amplified output and you can see that amplification. So this is the saturable property of amp. After this, the next one is the virtual ground concept, or concept of virtual ground. So in the virtual ground concept, we'll just take an example of an inverting op amp. So it's plus VCC minus VEE, and we have taken a feedback and we have connected a load here RL. So where we are going to take the input, and this is the virtual ground G. See, virtual ground means, as the name itself tells, virtual. Virtual means which is not seen or which is not physically done. Virtual ground concept. So here what happens is, you can observe to the inverting terminal we are giving a voltage supply, and the current will be flowing through this node, and even it flows through the RF, all that will happen. But here the positive terminal is grounded. So if you measure the voltage across this node, it will just show it as 0. Even though you have connected it to the voltage source, the node which is present here, that will be showing the voltage as 0, because this node is entirely dependent upon non-inverting terminal. Now let us take in the reverse way. So we are going to now connect this to ground and this with the voltage source. See, now this node, through this resistance, it is connected to ground. But when you measure the voltage at this point, this will be showing the same voltage what this voltmeter, this voltage source is going to give. If it is showing 2 volt, the voltage at this node will be 2 volt. Now if you are making it 5 volt, this will also show it is 5 volt. This is known as virtual ground concept. The node which is present at the inverting terminal is going to follow the non-inverting terminal voltage. This kind of concept is known as virtual ground concept. This you should remember, because based on this only the entire op-amps applications are designed. And you can see that it is not directly connected to this, but still it is going to follow this voltage. If it is grounded, this also shows 0. If it is given with voltage, it will show with that voltage. This is virtual ground concept. This cannot be physically proved, but mathematically we can prove it. Let us take this one as some V1 and this as V2. According to our basic equation, V0 is equal to A into V2 minus V1. V2 minus V1 is equal to V0 by A. So what is the value of A? It is the open loop gain. It is 2 into 10 to the power of 5. So V0 by 2 into 10 to the power of 5. See, can you imagine, or in simple words, can any time this voltage can become greater than this? Can the voltage become greater than this? The output voltage, can it become greater than 2 into 10 to the power of 5?
No, sir.
No, sir.
All right. Voltage can never become 2 lakh volt. That means numerator is very, very, very small compared to the denominator. Right? So can I take this as almost 0 now? Because it is 1 by infinity, almost equal to 1 by infinity. 1 by infinity is what? 0. So V2 minus V1 is equal to 0. This implies V2 is equal to V1. See, we can prove it mathematically. Mathematically, I proved V1 and V2. V2 is the voltage across this, and V1 is voltage across this terminal. but practically or physically we cannot prove it because it's virtually acting like a ground. But practically we cannot prove it, or physically we cannot look into the connection. So we can only prove it mathematically. So this is known as virtual ground concept. After this, we need to discuss about slew rate and frequency limitations, all those things, so that we can discuss in the next class. So after this, all the parameters are studied. Some few parameters we need to analyze by drawing the circuits. See the parameters like CMRR, all those things, we have just defined it and we have just discussed the equation. But next we need to derive the expression for CMRR, and we need to tell about the input and output voltage range, why input and output voltage range depends upon VCC and VE. All those things we need to analyze it by deriving equations. All those things we can do it in the next class. So while coming to the next class, study and come. So we'll continue.